my business has massively struggled because the ferry service that's provided on the island is inadequate. But we have.
So welcome to the show, Claire Noble.
Hi, how are you doing?
Not bad, thank you. So you've been running the Tobermory Bakery for the past 6 years, but you initially took that over from the previous owner, who'd been
Yes.
running, yeah, you've been running it for 17 years, I want to say.
So in total, I've been in the bakery for 21 years in total. I know I don't look old enough, but yeah, I started when I was 17.
I wasn't going to say that, but okay.
Yeah. So yeah, when I was 17, I started working there as a shop assistant.
How come you got thrusted into taking over the bakery and running it full time?
So obviously I started off as a shop girl. I just finished college, training to be a beauty therapist. Kind of realised that wasn't really my thing. So I came home to work for the summer, got a job in the bakery, and then I just really enjoyed it. So I didn't ever think of any other plans. And I got made manager kind of a few years later. And it was kind of when I was manager that I realized like I want this shop. It wasn't that I wanted a bakery or a cafe. I wanted this particular one because it was just like I felt like it was part of me. Like I loved it. I put so much into it as an employee that I treated it like it was mine as an employee, to be honest. Like very passionate about it. And it had been sold once while I was employed, and it came up for sale a second time. And I kind of thought to myself, I can't sit and watch this change hands again. I generally thought if I couldn't buy it, I would have to leave because it was quite soul destroying. Seeing it just, pass in front of you, knowing you wanted it. But obviously, I was at that point coming out of a relationship, 2 children. I lived wage to wage pretty much, and I didn't have the finances. I did ask, would my employers, be looking at maybe potentially leasing it to me, but they were kind of like, no, we just want to be done sort of thing. They had other businesses. And at that point, I was like, well, it's not going to happen. So I was a bit disheartened. And I was fortunate enough that there was a local man who was a customer quite often, had spotted me and known my passion for it. And the community knew my passion for the shop. I was pretty much clear as the bakery, sort of. And he said, if you come into this with me, I'll help you do this. And in 10 years' time, you buy me out and you carry it on as it's yours. That's kind of like a snapshot of how it went.
Talk about a long commitment.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the saying burning the boat?
No.
Quick little story. I forget exactly who, but someone invaded the West Indian tribes. I think it was in America. It was in the North or South America. I forget which one. Long story short, he said to his men, "Burn the boats," and he said, then turned around and said, "You see those ships burning? We ain't going home. You've got to." And they actually, in fairness, they conquered the land very well because they burned all other options to leave. It sounds like a
Yeah.
very similar situation with the 10-year
It does
buyout.
actually, yeah. 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 I was full in. Like even as I say an employee, I was full in. I didn't really mind that it wasn't mine because it was successful and I was like, I'm part of this. I couldn't even tell you what I loved about it. If somebody said to me, what do you love about your job? I genuinely couldn't have said to you like this specific thing. There was just something about the whole shop. Yeah, it was. It's hard to describe.
Would you say that you've merged metaphorically and somewhat physically with the shop to the point where it's a living part of you? Like Claire
Yes,
Noble's
yeah,
identity is so tied with Tobermory Bakery that if you were to cut it off, you'd literally be losing a part of you.
yeah, yeah. So I think as much as I was saying as well that if they sold it and it crossed hands, I would potentially leave. I found that really daunting, and I don't know if I necessarily would have, but at that moment, I was like, I can't see it cross hands again and give my all like I am for someone else. But no, it definitely was like people now say Claire is the Tobermory Bakery. That's at one point when, because obviously people around here, it's a very small town, knew the situation, knew single mother, council house, like that it possibly wouldn't be, something I could achieve. There was talk of a GoFundMe page getting started to help me because it was so widely known how much this particular building and, business meant to me. Yeah.
What was it about the first time that the bakery got exchanged hands that made you go, I can't watch it a second time?
I wasn't like the first time it got sold, I wasn't really in the headspace that, oh, I want to own this one day. I really enjoyed it. It was very kind of daunting, the thought of it. I'm one of the people that don't particularly like change. It kind of, so there was that element, but I think when the second time came round, it really kind of ingrained in me that I wanted it because I think I worked for the second owners for, I want to say maybe like 10, 11 years, maybe less, or maybe I'm trying to think. So long ago, but no, it was a longer period I worked for the second owners. The first owners didn't have it that long when I was employed there. It was a long time they had it, but the time I was there was quite short.
Oh, I see. So you got more accustomed to the second owner. No, what? I've got this.
Yeah,
So a
yeah,
third owner
yeah,
would have been a bit, where do we stand? And I've been here a long
yeah.
time, but yeah, you hear.
The
Yeah, that's
second owners as well had kind of developed it into something different. When I first started, it was very much like a deli. They had like stock on the shelves. They still did the bread, but they had like a cheese counter. And when the second owners came in, they turned it into like a cafe area, more of a tea room. So I think that business was what I thrived on, not necessarily the deli or higher end bakery.
okay, that makes sense. And yeah, I was about to say, you hear the horror stories of people being there a long time, like employees, and then they just get.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What have you learned from now running the bakery for 6 years compared to when you were just.
Oh, a lot. So much. The previous owners had it well, the struggle. So the business partner that came into it with me, he was very business minded. He had businesses before, not bakeries, not in this kind of industry. So he had that kind of, I just knew how to run it as such. He did sadly pass away a few years in. So that was one of the things I had to kind of go through. So I had to kind of not only pick up the baking side of things very quickly, but the whole, serious paperworky part. I would say the thing that I've probably kind of learned, it's hard. It's hard work. Like there's very little rewards for running your own business, I would say. There's not as much as I kind of always pictured running a business being you could float about in and out, you know, financially, you'd be kind of a bit more stable. It's not that. I do the most hours, the longest days for the least amount of kind of financial output. Yeah, I couldn't say. I've just learned so much, like specifically. I think just that it's really hard and very tiring and very and kind of you have to sacrifice a lot for it. It's not as glamorous as it can seem. And that's one of the reasons I started my blog and doing the social media is because I was watching these videos of people owning bakeries and cafes and they're all nicely dressed, and they're just sauntering around, and it's not like that at all. Like I'm tired. I like the way I dress is literally for comfort. Like, yeah, it's definitely not all it's kind of seems, or definitely not what I thought it would be like.
I can relate to that a lot because with this podcast, I thought, oh, I'll run this podcast would be so easy. No.
No, no, it's really not, like the time that you have to put in behind the scenes, especially I think when you're starting something where you don't have the financial security where you can just keep putting money into it. If something breaks, you know, you can get it fixed. My business is a case of, well, I can't fix that right now. So let's stick a band-aid on it and deal with that when we have to. Whereas I think the previous owners, they had other businesses that were very successful, whereas I'm here and this is what I've got and this is going to have to do.
I can relate. I mean, I had it with this podcast where one of my storage drives kind of kaput. I'm like, why am I going to get another storage drive? And then I had to use some of my wages to get it fixed. Still, I can relate. When it comes to actually running the bakery, you said that one of the challenges you face is that you rely heavily on tourism because Tobermory, I looked at the population, it's only like around 3,000. I think that data's from a year or two ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's far off that. I don't think it's far off. So as much as like I follow other businesses that are similar to mine, and there are like struggles that are across the board, you know, your cost of living, things like that. I have the added pressure of I'm on an island. We have a ferry service that dictates how many people come here. It is, I don't know if you've followed the news or things like that. It's horrendous. My business has massively struggled because the ferry service that's provided on the island is inadequate. But we have boats that are take away our boat. We say our boat. It's called the Isle of Mull. It's a big vessel. It carries a lot of passengers, and due to all these ferries breaking down, they keep taking our ferry and giving us a little one, so it reduces the capacity, which reduces the footfall, which reduces my customers. And also, there's a lot of breakdowns. The weather's bad. It's coming to a point where a lot of tourists, I feel, are kind of discouraged from coming here because they're like, well, what if our ferry gets cancelled? What if we can't get booked on the ferry? Now, we're fortunate enough we have 3 ferries that can get you to the island, but 2 of them are very small and have an additional, I think, about hour to your journey, really. And the main one is such a shambles. So I have that struggle. So our tourist season is massively affected. You would normally make as much as you can from, say, April time to September, but we're struggling to hit what we did years ago because of the ferry services. And again, I think cost of living comes into that. You know, accommodation here is kind of higher end pricing for holidays. People can't necessarily afford it, but that's definitely a massive impact on my business. Yeah.
Have you considered other avenues to help expand your bakery? So I know I would assume you're quite married to living on Tobermory.
Yeah.
But have you considered maybe, okay, like you just said, you want to stay, but have you considered moving the bakery more inland off the island?
I always say my business would be thriving and great if it was anywhere but here. But I'm born and raised Tobermory, Isle of Mull. I love it. I love raising my kids here. I love the community, and I just feel that I shouldn't have to leave here. We're kind of let down. We're being let down, and that's what I think frustrates me the most is that my business is not suffering. It's not suffering, but it's not where it could be, and it's not my fault, and I can't fix it because it's external factors like the ferry service, and I can't do anything about that.
Why not build a bridge to the island?
Oh, don't. There's there's a petition to build a bridge, you know, like Skye. But then you get the other side, people saying, oh, too many people would come. And I get it if you're a resident, but they don't see it from a business side as well. Like, yeah, it's a busy wee island, but it's not as busy as it used to be because of travel.
Why not a cookbook?
It's time. So I got asked loads, like people keep saying to me, write a recipe book. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then I'm like, when am I going to get time to do that? And that's the hardest thing I find about doing like the blog is finding time to film is because my alarm goes off at 3 in the morning and I don't stop till I go to bed at 8:30 at night. So between working, it's flat out in the shop, and then the next minute I've got to get my kids from school, and then you've got after school clubs, and we've got sheep and and before you know it's bedtime. And I would love to do that, but it is finding time to do it.
No, I get that. I found I can Imagine this conversation I'm relating to a lot with what you said.
Yeah.
I am because I don't get up nearly as early as you. I think the earliest I would get up is 3:30, but purely to go to the gym because of my day job. But besides that, it's normally I'm up like 4:30, 5, depending gym or not. And then by the time I get to normally around this time in the evening, I think I've done the main thing, but I've got other little bits to do, and then I still got other stuff to do
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah, it's finding the time, and I wouldn't want to kind of not put the full effort into it. That's one of my things. Like if I'm doing something, I want to do it all in, so I'd rather not do it. So I have done. I've had people like comment on our business Facebook page about recipes. So what I did was for everyone to send me their email addresses, and I did the recipe on that, and then I emailed it out. But even that was quite kind of hard, and I don't think that's something I could do regularly. So on my Instagram, I have done a few recipe videos which did quite well. But I mean, there are loads of stuff that I think, oh, I could do that, I could do that. But the other issue we have here is staff. So we have like no accommodation on the island. Like people struggle to find anywhere to live. Like we're just full, and there's so many like second homes here and holiday homes that I can't get staff. So I do the majority like in the shop of things because I can't get the staff. So if I could get somebody to delegate some jobs to, I'd maybe have more time for these things, but that's unfortunately not going to happen.
Yeah, like I said, a population of around 3,000, and with loads of people having second homes on the island. Because I did,
So we need second homes for the tourists, but I also need them for staff. So it's, yeah,
yeah, because I did see that newspaper article. I think you put it on your personal Instagram, was it? Where you talked about, yeah, the cost of living, lack of
yeah.
housing. How has the cost of living crisis affected your ability to run the bakery? Because obviously energy costs will come into it because you need gas, electric to run the ovens and all of that.
Yeah.
But I would assume it'd be a bit more of a logistical nightmare because I live in London, the UK. But then all the pipe work or the electric is built into the island. So I would assume it'd be a bit more of a nightmare for you guys because you've got to take the power, the gas, the water all from the mainland. And
I don't think it's any more expensive. I don't. Is we can't get gas here on the island. We don't have gas, so like electricity. You can get gas as such, but it's like you have to buy like the canisters. We don't have like plumbed in gas. That's not something we have.
oh, really?
And I don't think, yes, and electricity. I don't think it's any more expensive where we are. I know a lot of the bigger businesses here, wind farms have kind of started can happen, but electricity costs is obviously being a bakery are one of the higher outgoings. But cost of living, yeah, so obviously because we are seasonal, like a tourist based kind of business, we've kind of got a slight decline with the staffing issue. So we tend to keep staff on through the winter so that we are secure in the summer with staff, but that means we're running at a loss. But it kind of I need the staff in the summer, and also the locals need an all year round job. And I feel like I would love to pay my team so much more an hour than I am, but I can't. And I'm very open with my staff that, you know, I'm on minimum wage too. Like it's not something I want, but we also have the added problem here that our goods come from obviously mainland. We have to pay quite a high charge for delivery for goods. So my bakery kind of ingredients, they're constantly increasing the price all the time. But I've also got to pay a massive chunk to delivery because they've got to come here. So you've got everything added on top of that. Like our local supermarket, our prices in there are higher than mainland ones because of that same sort of problem. Um, so yeah, it definitely affects us slightly more. I wouldn't say that we're worse off, but we have all that additional because of where we are location wise.
It sounds like your staff, whilst they're employed all year round, functionally they're seasonal. I assume they have it where they're just not working for half. for most of the year then, and they're just kind of, oh, it's a paid holiday, essentially.
Well, no, they're still there in the shop, but there's not much to do. So that's it. There's not much customers. So they are. So we have got ones that are. I've got 4 members of staff that are all year round. As much as they're full time, their hours do drop in the winter months, but I still have to give them a certain amount so they can live, pay their bills. So as much as some of them aren't needed, they're still in like physically they are. I just get them to clean stuff, even though they cleaned it 2 days before. But we shut for the whole month of January. We do shut for the whole month of January. And that's more so that I can have some time off, because if I'm not working, there's a lot that can't be done. So for me, having time off is very rare, because I make so much of the produce that if I'm not there, there's not that produce.
I get that. Speaking of the recipes, what do you actually make?
Okay, so I've got my bread man, Dave. So he literally just makes the bread. I hate making bread. Not for me. It's not. So he makes the bread and we sell that in the shop, but we also wholesale it to a select few businesses on the island. So we make things like quiches, filled rolls, pies, cakes, tray bakes, toasties. We're, I wouldn't say famous, that's a big word, but we're known for our donuts and our pies. So that's, yeah. So it's mainly like your kind of, we don't do your fancy croissants or, so as I said, I'm self-taught. I am not the most knowledgeable in baking, so I'm not at the point where laminating pastry is on my, things that I do.
So no cinnamon rolls, no.
Oh no, I do cinnamon rolls. I do make cinnamon rolls, but it's not a patisserie or fancy. It's kind of I would say like traditional bacon, Scottish bacon, like what your granny would bake, sort of bakery.
Oh, I see. So it's pretty much as cookie cutter as it comes, no pun intended. With what's the
Yeah.
most fanciest thing you've ever made then?
I mean, fancy is our hardest thing. So like I say, I did make a thing called cruffins, which are like a hybrid between a muffin and a croissant. And that was like laminating pastry, and you roll it so it looks like a muffin. But it's that, but I don't do them very often because they're very time consuming.
How long do they take to make?
So it's about 2 days. So you have to kind of you have to make the dough, laminate it, fold it, leave it to rest, and then the next day that's when you can actually like piece it together.
It's like making ramen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's a what? Some of it's 24 hours to make because you have to broth the chicken. It sounds a lot similar. It's like 2 days.
Yeah.
Do this, 6 hours. This, 12 hours.
That's exactly what it's like. Yeah. I've not got the patience for that. Like I really don't.
Do they sell well at least?
They do. They did really well, and you do get people asking for them, and I'm like, yeah, I can make them for you. Yeah, I'll put them again in the shop. But they're time consuming. As I said, time is very much of the essence.
What is your typical day as a baker if time's such a constraint for you? Because you said you get up at 3 a.m. but
Yeah.
and you're done by 8:30 in the evening. But what is the typical day in the life for you?
So alarm goes off at 3. Get to the shop maybe about 4, half 4. Depends on what I've got on that day. If I've got somewhere to be, if I've got something on during the day where I can't be there for a certain amount of hours, I have to take those hours and start earlier. So yeah, into the shop. First thing I do is kind of look at everything that's in the counters, see what needs to be topped up, what we've run out of. And because I'm like actively there during the day, I do see what's selling and what's done before I leave. So I have got it like a mental note, but I'll go in and I write a list. I always write a list, even if I'm making the exact same things every day, it's a list because I'll forget something. And then the first thing I'll do is put like anything like sausage rolls, pies, pasties and stuff on. Then making the quiche, croissants, we buy them in, but I have to cook them off. Cutting up any tray bakes that I'd made the day before to top up the shelves, filling baguettes, the bagels, stocking the counter. I also have to kind of make sure the baker knows what he's got to make that day. And then by about 8:30, I then have to dash back home, pick my kids up, take them to school, come back. And then the day can either be I've got certain cakes that I need to make, or I have invoices to send out, or I've got a meeting, or somebody might not be able to work that day. So I might have to go in the shop and be a server for the day, taking in orders, ordering goods. Every day's different. Nothing's the same. But I am primarily solo in what I do in the back. I do have a couple of people that come in and help do a few hours doing cakes, but again, I have to kind of manage them. So overall, just managing the shop. And then about 2:30, 2:45, I then go get my kids from school, home, make dinner, make pack lunches. If there's, for the next day, get everything sorted, go check the sheep, especially just now because they're lambing, and then home, shower, bed. So that's a typical Monday to Friday. We can't open at weekends at the moment because we don't have staff. So that's a bit, I'm enjoying it, but the business could really do with being open. But so that's Monday to Friday.
You said one thing that caught my eye was you would check what needs stocking up and what needs completely sorting out. How long can you keep baked goods on the counter for before you have to throw them out?
So everything's kind of different. So obviously things, if you buy a cake, not like a cake, but if you buy stuff in with preservatives and stuff, they obviously last longer, but we make most stuff from scratch. So I would say your kind of savory goods, things like our baguettes, our bagels, they are a day, that's it. So if you don't sell them, it's in the bin. Your kind of sausage rolls, pies and pasties, usually like 2 to 3 days as long as they're in the fridge. Again, so the good thing with me making the stuff and managing the shop is that I've got a mental note of like I'm not making too much. So our wastage is minimal because I'm so actively involved in every stage of it. Things like tray bakes, they can last up to like 21 days as long as you store them right. Obviously, we've never had anything that lasts that long. So again, your time management and, stock management, you're talking maybe 3 or 4 days at the most, anything's actually in the counter. But a lot of the stuff, I say, only have a 1 day life. I've seen places that will sell stuff maybe a couple of days more, but I just think it's not as nice as the first day, so I'd rather just not sell it.
I know what you mean with the freshness because I meal prep all my meals. Now, admittedly, I'll make enough food for 8 days. I get to
Yeah.
about day 5, and then stuff's like, and then the last day is like, if I left this for a bit longer, I would probably throw up. I know what you mean
Yeah.
because it doesn't taste as fresh, and then it just becomes a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not
I
good.
want people to have the best cake every time they have it, like the continuity.
You said that you're also part of a tea room. Would you say the business does better on the tea room side of things, or would you say the bakery side?
No, so we've only got 5 tables, so it's quite a small sitting area. I really wish we had outdoor seating. So on a really nice, beautiful day, we lose out a lot to other businesses that have that option. But no, I would say primarily the business thrives on the takeaway side, people going out to like explore the island. So first thing in the morning, quite often we've got a queue waiting to get in, and it's chaos for about 2 hours, and then we have like a kind of lull before any bus trips that have maybe arrived from the ferry come in. But yeah, I would say the sit-in is just, I would say maybe a third of the business, if that.
I would have thought it would have been larger, but
Yeah, no, I think it's because of the size and saying like, especially on nice days, you don't want to be sat inside. So yeah, we don't tend to.
I just thought about takeaway cups. Maybe that's an option.
We do our own like branded cup, and if you reuse that cup, you get money off your coffee. So it's sort of an incentive for them to use it. Not that everyone remembers to bring them back, but yeah. So
What recipe would you like to make for the bakery, but you can't for any particular reason? So for me, I don't know why, but I would like to try some brioche bread, but it's a nightmare to find it.
I would say sourdough.
Hmm.
Right, but I think sourdough's like the devil. Like it is so hard. And obviously somebody that's not trained in any way, we've tried it so many times and I've just like, nah, that's you've got to grow a starter, you've got to grow enough, and obviously the size of business you have, like the amount you have to, and then if it dies, that's you back to square one, having to grow this thing. I wish that we could have nailed that and it was easier. But sourdough, I've tried, and it doesn't work ever. It's a failure. And yeah, I've had somebody come in and show me as well. I was like, somebody that makes it come in, show me, and I'm just like, I can't get it. I just can't. It won't work.
How do I put this into this into this? Wait, you do this as well?
Yeah, it's just that I can't. It's too scientific. I was never good at science at school. So anyone that doesn't say that bacon's a science is lying. It's like that's. I feel like yeah. I do think it's slightly overrated, sourdough. I'm always scared to say that online, but I've tried it. I'm not a fan. I don't understand what people like about it, but it's a trend, and we definitely. That's one thing we've not been able to kind of do.
Well, that's the problem with trends, they come and go. Well, how much would you say that you spend, like, in terms of your time in the bakery, how much would you say you're a baker compared to, say, a business owner? So what I mean by that is how much time do you actually spend baking and running the shop as opposed to saying all the admin and paperwork sort of thing?
All admin and paperwork, I don't near spend enough time on that. Like I'm so grateful I've got a bookkeeper and an accountant, that's for sure. Yeah, I would say most of the paperwork, business owner side, gets done at home. Yeah, so in the bakery, I would say out of a 10, 20, say a 12-hour day, because that can just be, I would say maybe 10 and a half hours is actively producing stuff and an hour and a half on. I definitely feel like I should do more, but I see people like as the business owners and they're sat at their laptops and they're doing things. I'm like, I don't do that. Should I be doing that? Or what are they actually doing? Like, is there something I should be doing that I'm not doing here? So I send out invoices, I do the invoices. But again, we've only got a small number of wholesale kind of customers. So it's not a massive job. But in terms of keeping on top of price rises and costings, it's usually like very little time I spend on it. Seems to be working, seems to be doing okay. I haven't had anything that I'm like, you've not done that. But rotas, again, if I'm doing rotas, they get done at home, out with the shop. A lot of times, I don't get peace. I don't get peace in the shop. Somebody wants to talk to me, or somebody's on the phone, or somebody needs help with this. So for me to fully focus, I just do it when I'm away from there.
Do you have, it's like, oh, fine, like, if I've made streaming, that's for you. You've won some awards for your work, so was it this year or last year you won Best Baker? Or was it the Best Bakery? I forget the
It
exact
was I
one.
think it was the best bakery in a Girl and Butte, was it? Is that one? So the Girl and Butte bakery one, I think that was last year. They're very small awards. I say award winning. They mean masses to me. They may not be officially recognised worldwide, but they were big achievements for us. We got the Bakery and Tea Room of the Year 2023, 22. Best bakery in a Girl and Butte last year. I got, I think it was, I've got the certificate here somewhere actually. A highly commended Island Cafe of the Year, and we got regional winner for Central for Bakery of the Year. And actually, there was one big one that I got nominated for. It was Employer of the Year for. It was a very big bakery award. I didn't win, but the people I were up against were massive bakeries. Like there was no way I knew, but just to be nominated with them, they had like private healthcare for their staff, and I was like, I just let my staff bring their kids to work in the morning before school, like, but I care about like, that was big for me just to be even noticed in that small kind of group. That was massive.
Would you say it's extra special because I mean this nicely, your bakery's kind of out the way on the island. There's
Well, yeah, we're nobodies really. Like when I enter competitions for my products and put myself out there, knowing that it's probably not going to happen. But the fact that I'm like, well, I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to try because what if? What if? And then I see names of the people that have won them, and I'm like, well, of course they won it. They've got 4 bakeries, their names well established. They've been baking for 120 years in the family business, like, but I'm very much like, well, what if? I don't, I am my biggest critic and I am hard on myself, but it doesn't stop me trying. Like, I'll still do it.
yeah, that's the kind of a life philosophy I've adopted in a way where if you don't ask, it's a definite no.
You don't have to not get, yeah.
Yeah, but if you ask, it might still be a no, but at least you've opened the door for a yes.
I always say to people, like, what's the worst that could happen? Well, they'll say no. And like, that's, that's not that bad. And I read something somewhere, and that's what sticks in my head. And it's like, a winner is a loser that tried one more time. And I'm very much like, I put myself out there. I don't, and as much as I'm hard on myself, and I do get a wee bit upset, like when I haven't, but at the same time, I'm like, but it's not going to stop me trying again. It's almost like an incentive to keep going. And I look back at the stuff I baked, 3 years ago, and I'm like, oh my God, that looks awful. Like that's, and I look to where I am now, and I'm thinking, you've done that in such a short period of time. You've done it yourself. You've had nobody show you. You've just figured it out. Just think what I could achieve in the next three. So it's kind of like having looking back, but I do look at some stuff and think, oh my goodness, like that doesn't look great, that cake. But look at the cake that you do now. Like I couldn't make a scone 3 years ago. Like I just could not make a scone. I can't make a pancake. No, you think they're easy. I can't make a pancake. Like I can make donuts and all these things, but I can't do a simple pancake.
Maybe try waffles, you could get a waffle maker.
I've got a waffle machine. That was like we tried that, but yeah, the problem we have here is so the girls in the shop are always sending me like inspiration on TikTok and whatnot. And it's all this fancy trending, like cookie pies and all these fancy like. But I try and say something like, you have to look at our customers. Their average age is about 60, so they're not going to want a cookie pie. Like, let's just stick to the scones. So it is hard being here because you can't necessarily follow what's trending and make what's trending because you have to kind of apply it to your customers.
Now I go with me. It'd be like if all of a sudden we got this fancy trend for pumpkin baguettes, let's just say.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got to kind of look at your kind of audience as such and be like, yeah, they're not going to want that. I think it'd be cool, and yeah, I know that it's a massive thing maybe in Glasgow, but not in Tobermory.
Yeah, can we do avocado muffins? No, someone's allergic to avocados, remember?
What's yeah, like it's just not if it's trending in the city, it's very unlikely that it'll trend here.
Would you say that kind of limits what you can and can't do for your age demographic? Yeah, in the
Yeah,
cities.
yeah, massively. Yeah, you don't tend to get like teenagers coming here on holiday. You don't necessarily. It's more your kind of older. I mean, there's families that have come in the shop and they've come for years, and the kids get to a certain age and then the kids stop coming. So you get to know people and you're like, oh, how's so and so, and they're like, oh well, they didn't want to come. They're staying with their friends. So there is definitely like a little gap of the younger generation because there's no cinema here. There's no bowling alley. There's not much really cool, unless you really like the outdoors.
No,
So
I
you
know
do have that gap.
sorry to interrupt, but I know exactly what you mean because I used to live in Exmoor. For those who don't know, it's basically a little village in the middle of nowhere in Exmoor, and it's in the southwest of the UK. And it was exactly the same thing for me. Most of the people were in their 50s upwards. I think we might have found a few 40-year-olds. But when I lived there, it it's nice and all, but there's nothing for me to do except sit in my room and play video games all the time. So part of the reason I left
Yeah,
is, yeah, 'cause there's nothing for me to do down there. So why would I
yeah,
stay?
yeah. I think there is a lot of that here, that when kids get to, leave school, very rarely do they come back and live here. Again, because there's not much job progression here unless you can work remotely. But there's definitely that massive gap. So I would definitely say it's more your kind of older generation that we cater for here. I mean, I wouldn't take my kids here on holiday, but I think that's because we live here. Like, I've never been to another island. I think when you live on an island, you don't tend to want to go to another one. We'll normally go to the city where the kids can go to, like, trampoline parks and those kind of novelty things. So
Yeah,
it definitely narrows down who comes here.
that sounds like I forget what the term is or where exactly it's from. I think it's like a I think it might be a psychological or physiological effect where people tend, they did this experiment with rats where they got some in a warm environment and got some in a cold environment, and they brought both these groups into a warm environment. But what was really interesting was the warm rats stayed, but the cold rats, yes, their quality of life was a lot better. Yes, they were going to live for longer. Because they had grown accustomed to the cold environment, they just went back home. It sounds a lot
Yeah,
similar to you in the sense of you don't want to go to another island because you've grown accustomed to your current
yeah,
one. Yeah.
yeah. Like anything I could do there, I could probably do here. So I want to go somewhere that there's slightly different. I like to come home. I'm not a city girl at all. It's not. It's nice for little small trips, but definitely quiet
Listen,
life.
I'm a city guy myself, although I don't live in the city, unfortunately. But since I was born in the city, so yeah, that's for me.
Yeah, my sisters, they both live in the city. They're city girls. They left and didn't come back. Whereas I went to college for a year and just like, nah, it's just not for me.
Fair enough.
So I like,
No, each to their own, I guess. What can we expect from you and your bakery going forward? Because I assume, as of recording, we've entered tourist season, but what's your plans for after season?
season. So I very much winging it. So every year, like something different happens. So we had COVID. The first year, COVID happened literally months later. So we had to adapt to that. Then obviously things kind of changed. We had to adapt to that. So every year, my business has changed in some way. It's adapted. And I kind of think that's one thing that I pride myself on, is that my ability to adapt, move quickly, and change when I need to. And I think that's why I'm still here. I'm still surviving as such, is because I see it happening and I act straight away. I don't wait till, crisis point sort of thing. This year, obviously, staffing is kind of definitely harder this year than last year. So just doing what we can with the staff we have, making it through lots of markets. I do a lot of markets out with the shop, it's kind of a top up to the business. And just kind of, because again, we're so kind of isolated here, it kind of gets my business other places. And then hopefully in the winter, trying to find a way to kind of utilize the quietness and how to. So I'm thinking more like postal. We get a lot of people wanting us to post things that they've seen. So maybe a bit more postal, a bit more kind of online kind of engagement with the shop. But I'm hoping to move more into kind of postal, but only for the winter months.
Yeah, it might give you a good excuse to write that recipe, but
Yeah, well, yeah, yes, yeah. Trying to find a way to make the winter break even rather than, because it's just a vicious cycle. That's what we're going through. So you got the summer pays for the winter, basically.
feels like
Yeah.
a vicious hamster wheel.
Yes. Yes. It really is.
Fair noble, everyone. Because we've already said where your bakery is, where can people find your personal social media stuff if they want to get to know you more?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok as the new Island Girl. So obviously I have like the Tobermory Bakery Instagram, but that's my primary one. That's more just about not just the bakery, as even though that's probably the biggest part. That's, it seems to be what people are interested in, I've just been a mum and yeah, so navigating life. But yeah, Instagram is the new island girl and TikTok, yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. If you liked learning all about what it's like to run a bakery and you want to learn about the different topics as well, then I have Iana Arakri, who is a reality shifting coach, and Peter Kenny Jones, who is the